Hi everyone, Jennifer here, back with another edition of Movie Talk. This week's movie is one that falls into one of my favorite franchises, and it is a franchise that is still doing movies. And this is actually the first movie in what is so far a three-part movie. Well, not three parts, but it's got three movies that are about this particular character. And that movie is Ant-Man. When a petty thief, or a small-time thief, breaks into the house of a world-class scientist and steals what looks like to be a worthless suit, he soon learns that there is far more going on and has his eyes open to a world he never knew existed. Okay, highlights of the movie. This movie was made back in 2015, so it's not even 10 years old yet. And it is a superhero film produced by Marvel and Disney, and is based on the characters by the same name that they go by in the movie, and is the 12th movie in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I'm not listing all 12 because there's 12, and I also had a couple that I had to put in for the sequel. And it has two sequels, Ant-Man and the Wasp, and Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, which was just recently released on DVD. Okay, things I liked about this movie. I really liked everything about this movie. Ant-Man is one of my favorite Marvel superheroes, and also one of my favorite Avengers. Now, I first saw this movie in theaters probably roughly right around the time it came out. And when I found out, oh, it's Ant-Man, I thought, okay, well, we're going to go and we're going to see, it's going to be about Hank Pym and how he discovered, this subterranean universe, the microverse, I believe is what it's referred to in the world of Marvel, and how he invented the suit that allows him to shrink and the helmet that allows him to communicate and control ants and everything. And it turned out that wasn't what the movie was about. There's actually two Ant-Man, and I knew there were two Ant-Man. I knew this. I knew Hank Pym, excuse me, I'm tripping over the character's name, was the first one, the one who actually started everything with Ant-Man. And then there was another one named Scott Long, who kind of takes Hank's place when Hank decides he doesn't want to be Ant-Man anymore. And I thought, okay, well, I knew there were two, and I figured somewhere down the line they were going to do a movie on Hank Long, taking over for, or Scott Long taking over for Hank Pym, excuse me, but I assumed that this movie was going to be on Hank Pym and all that and everything that led up to Ant-Man being created. This was going to be the first Ant-Man's origin story. And I was wrong. It wasn't. They completely skipped over Hank Pym. Well, not completely because they do cover it in the movie, but they didn't focus on Hank Pym being Ant-Man all that much in the movie. I mean, they touch on him and they explain how he developed everything and whatnot, and they mention his assistant Jan Van Dyke, who was Wasp, and everything, and all that in the movie. So they do give you enough backstory for people who don't know Ant-Man all that much to where they can follow and be like, okay, that's where this came from. That's how this was discovered. That's why he can shrink. That's why he can control the ants. That's who Wasp is and all that. They set that up so enough to where you can follow it, to where you're not going into this movie and you're like, well, where the heck did this all come from? And you don't feel like, wait, was there a movie I missed? Was this Ant-Man 2 or something? So they set it up enough to where you can follow it. But again, when I walked into the theater and I sat down and started watching the movie with my popcorn and my icy and everything, I was thinking, okay, so this is what we're going to see. We're going to see Hank Pym's origin story of becoming Ant-Man, and maybe Jan Van Dyke's origin story of becoming Wasp or something, or they're going to set that up so the next Ant-Man movie will be her origin story to a degree, and it wasn't that. But 5 minutes after realizing that this is not what I thought this was not the movie I thought it was going to be, I'm like, but this is still a pretty good movie. So it did take me off guard. It did at first, because you see Hank Pym walk into, and this is at the very beginning of the movie, so it's not spoiler, walking into, I believe it's Stark Industries. It's been a while since I actually watched the movie, but I believe it was Stark Industries. And he's talking with, and I thought, okay, he's going to be talking with Tony. And possibly Nick Fury or something. And whatnot. So I'm expecting to see Robert Downey Jr. Right there, and he and Hank Pym are talking to each other, and Hank goes off on his own, and then he is approached by Tony Stark to help, or something, like at the end of the movie or something, and it didn't happen. It was Howard Stark, and I'm like, oh, wait a minute, Howard Stark, Hank Pym's supposed to be from the same generation as Tony, so what's going on here? And then they jumped right into the bulk of the movie, and I was like, okay, so this isn't about Hank Pym, the first Ant-Man, this is about the second Ant-Man. And then I'm watching the movie, and then like 5 minutes until I'm like, okay, yeah, I can get into this. It's okay. I was well aware there were two Ant-Man before I walked into the movie, so it was like, okay, I'm fine with this. They just decided they were just going to focus on the second Ant-Man in the Marvel Cinematic Universe instead of the first one, and then get into the second one, which is fine. And I liked a lot of what they did to set up Ant-Man and the Wasp in this movie, and also, although I haven't seen it yet, I know enough from the trailers and everything to know that, okay, there's probably stuff they put in here that set up stuff for Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania as well. So they're really, and if you watch all the movies from like the first Iron Man all the way through, there are lines that connect each of the movies together, and not necessarily like the ones that are that are about that particular hero. So there are lines in Iron Man that connect to Hulk, that connect to Iron Man 2, that connect to Thor, that connect to the Avengers, or that connect to Thor, that connect to Captain America, that connect to the Avengers, that connect to Iron Man 3, that connect to Captain America 2, that connect to Guardians of the Galaxy, that connect to Age of Ultron, that connect to Ant-Man, that connect to Civil War, that connect to Doctor Strange, that connect to Guardians of the Galaxy 2, that connect to Spider-Man, that connect to Black Panther, and on and on and on and on and on, all the way up to the more recent movies. So they all, in some way, interconnect with each other and form a thread. And if you look closely, you can see where the threads connect. Or if you watch the next movie that follows, and you'd be like, oh, I remember them mentioning that in so-and-so's movie. So they do interconnect with each other, which is one of the things I love about the Marvel Cinematic movies. They all interconnect. They can stand by themselves, but they also interconnect with each other, too. I liked the characters, even though I was not expecting it to be about Scott Long. And I was fully expecting walking in it to be about Hank Pym and, seeing Hank Pym and then seeing Jan Van Dyke and everything, and it'd be about them. I love the way they set it up. I don't know if they get too much in the comic books, and I know in some of the TV shows I've seen, they don't get too much into Scott Long's background. I mean, he's a thief, but that's about it. I don't think they get into too much of his back history with his family and everything, and they do in this movie, which is amazing. I loved that. And as I said, they did a good job of basically, because they decided to not make this movie about Hank Pym, but instead to make it about the second Ant-Man, Scott Long, they still did an amazing job giving you enough backstory on what happened with Hank Pym and Jan Van Dyke, the original Ant-Man and Wasp, that you understood what was going on now. They did a very good job of that, so you're not confused. Well, wait, what's going on? Where did this come from? How did he discover this? How, all of that. You don't really see much of the microverse. I mean, you do, but you don't. I mean, you see it in flashbacks and then, in the big battle and everything. But, I mean, you see this amazing world. I mean, Scott Long's in this amazing world that we do know about, but we don't get to see all that much, and it's the world of the ants. Because obviously it's Ant-Man, which is just amazing. It was just so cool to have, because obviously it was cinematic, or not cinematic, CGI and green screen and everything. He wasn't really that smart. Obviously, I get that. But they did it in such a way that when you're watching the movie, you actually feel that, yeah, he shrank down. And it's so cool. Because he's in this grassy area. I'm assuming it's Hank Pym's backyard or something. Which is like a great place for him to train with the suit in small size and learn to work with the ants, because it's got a fence around and they can basically control who's coming in and out and nobody stepping on him or anything. And you see him interacting with the ants, and the ants are obviously CG animated, but it's like so cool and amazing, and I loved it. And whatnot. And then, obviously because the suit can make him grow and shrink, he's got these devices that allow him to make other things grow and shrink. So you see ants growing to the size of dogs, and toys getting big, and you see this, and it's not so much of it's kind of a little bit of a spoiler, so I'm not going to get too much into it, but you see like part of the big supervillain battle, the battle between Scott Long, aka Ant-Man, and then Yellow Jacket, who's the villain, is on this like toy train setup, which is so cool because you're looking at it from two separate points of view. The actual point of view, like the way it actually looks to a person, and then the way it looks to them, and it's like so cool how they jump back and forth between the two. That I absolutely love it. I don't want to give away too much of that because it is spoiler, but it's, take my word for it, is like so cool when you see it. I absolutely loved that. And they do this amazing job of just setting the stage for not only Scott Long to be Ant-Man, but also setting up the next movie, Ant-Man and the Wasp, where we get to see the Wasp, the second Wasp, which is amazing. And I don't want to get too much into it. We will get into Ant-Man and the Wasp, and 7 more Marvel movies. Can't say how many more movies are ahead of that, but within seven Marvel movies, we'll be getting into Ant-Man and the Wasp, I promise. I do kind of want to do the Marvel Cinematic movies in release order. Okay, cast. This movie had a great cast of actors, and not a lot of them were in the other Marvel movies. You see, like, one was in the other Marvel movies. Okay, feel free to check out my related Marvel videos. Well, Marvel Avenger videos. before I sign off, a few things I'd like to touch on. First off, a quick reminder on my comment rules. Number 1, no mean comments. Number 2, no bad or curse words in comments. Number 3, I'm not opposed to debates, but please keep it civil. And finally, number 4, please be respectful to me and each other. Okay, feel free to leave your comments and questions in the comments section. I do love to read those. Also, feel free to follow me on Wattpad, Tumblr, Instagram, and Twitter. I do have my name for those 4 sites right there on the screen, as well as the pictures I use for the icons. Please note that all pictures seen within this video do belong to their respected artists. I own absolutely nothing. And the links for any sites mentioned in this video will be in the description section. Okay, YouTube subscribers. Any of my videos that cannot be found on YouTube are on my Facebook page. Facebook friends, basically the same deal. Any of my videos that cannot be found on Facebook are on my YouTube channel. And to anyone who's interested, you can feel free to check out my Facebook group, Fanfic Corner. Okay, please like and share if you're watching on Facebook, or like and subscribe if you haven't already, if you're watching on YouTube. And as always, thank you for watching, and have a very nice day.